Well, hello, I'm Borax, and I've been playing so many off-meta supports that I've kind of forgotten just how frustrating it can be to play an actual enchanter. You watch as your teammates receive your buffs and then proceed to waste them. Now, I'm used to being the reason my team is losing because I am playing Gwen support, but now I'm watching my team lose the game because they don't know what Renata Glass's abilities do. Oh, by the way, just in case you are one of those people who don't fully know all of Renata's abilities, I made a video explaining them, which I'll link in the description, and I'd recommend checking that out first so you have a good understanding of the champion. But, without further ado, today we will be looking at Renata Glasc, the Chem Baroness, who is an actual support for once, and we'll find out if she is actually a good one. I like to start off by talking about a support's ability to invade level 1, and Renata is quite potent. You have your Q ability, which roots enemies, pulls them closer to your team, and a passive that can do some serious work in the early game to help you get first blood right before you die in return. While bush camping isn't bad, a new way I love to invade against ranged top laners is to try and find them pushing into the early brushes because they want to poke my top laner level 1. But they end up receiving a nice grace screen, which is exactly what ranged top lane players deserve. For invading, I will give Renata a S- rating. It's super legit, but still loses out to the hook champions, so be wary of them. I like to judge the overall laning phase based on 3 categories: poking, peeling, and all-inning. When it comes to poking, enchanters are famous for annoying the crap out of you without doing any serious damage, and Renata is no exception. If you watched my ability rundown, then you will know that her passive is a great way to poke enemies, especially melee supports. And you can also use your Q and E for a little bit more damage while also affecting their mobility so that you can harass them a bit more. For poke, I will give Renata an A+. It's irritating for the enemies, but it isn't overbearing. However, if you are landing enough of it, you can keep them under tower, making them uncomfortable and forcing them back. I believe that as an enchanter, you want to be getting favorable poke off as much as possible so that the enemies are less willing to all-in you without a gank, but in case they do decide to go for it, you can use your amazing kit to peel, so let's talk about that now. Renata Glass is easily the best peeling support so far that I've made a video on, and it should come to no one's surprise, as that's usually the aspect of the game that enchanters shine at. Did the enemy Diana get an amazing flank? No problem. Just slap your W on the target that they are going after, which will allow them to go into their great health state once their normal HP is down to 0, and then, with your combined damage, kill the Diana for realsies and have your Xerries survive. Now, this play is what I like to call the epic prank, because while it might seem like they won the play, it turns out that they are actually the losers. Amazing. W is your best peel tool overall if your ADC understands that they need to be aggressive when they have it and you can get the kill. The rest of your kit, however, is no joke either when it comes to peeling. You can use your Q to root enemies and fling them into one another, stunning them so you can run away, and your E slows enemies and gives your teammates some decent, but honestly not crazy shielding. Then, you also have your ultimate that will taunt enemies, making them incapable of attacking you, which is another great way to peel. When a champion has 4 abilities that they can use to peel quite effectively, I have no other choice but to give Renata a S+ rating in this category. So if you love to peel, I'd try this champion out for sure. Now, I myself am not a huge peeling fan, but rather like to be aggressive, so let's take a look at her ability to all-in during lane. Renata is no slouch at this category. One of the best times to all-in is when you hit level 2 before your opponents and try to force a quick kill on them. Renata's kit is excellent at that, as you can slow them with an E, leading to an easier Q, and with an ignite and some persistent autos, you can secure some first bloods. You and your ADC also really want to try and focus on the same target so that they can constantly proc your passive damage and enable you to reapply it, which is a chain of damage that is surprisingly effective. Early on, your Q is plenty of hard CC, especially with Glacial Augment, which is nice to set up easy ganks for your jungler. But it's also plenty good on its own even without your jungler when used against a squishy opponent that doesn't respect you. You can relatively safely attempt to engage, as you never have to go in to kill people. All of your abilities are ranged after all. Something unique about Renata is her strength as a master baiter. Your opponents might think they can easily kill you, but you have the advantage that you can pop your W on yourself and perform a 1-for-1 trade that is actually just a 1-for-0 trade, and thus is another example of the epic prank. Now when it comes to using Renata's ult to engage, it's quite tricky, as you can't really use it effectively straight out in a line, as the enemies will just walk away. So your best bet is to come from the side and to place it a bit behind them so that they either get hit with this ability or need to walk up towards your team. For all inning, I will give Renata Glasc an S- for lane. It's really strong if you hit all of your abilities, but if you miss any of them, it can go poorly for yourself as you are a relatively squishy character and can only bring back one person with your W, and you don't want to self-cast it for the most part as you don't benefit from the attack speed as much as your ADC will. Now that we've talked about Renata's laning prowess, let's talk about the matchups that she might have to face. Now I was able to play about 5 games with Renata on the PBE, and in 60% of those games, there was a Morgana in the bot lane. If you follow this channel, then you know that I consider Morgana the League of Legends equivalent of seeing those YouTube videos saying that Zeri got reworked already because she got some nerfs. But she has to be one of the best counters to Renata, as her spell shield allows someone to completely ignore your game-changing ultimate, as well as your Q, and her own Q ability, which lasts about 7 minutes and 19 seconds, outranges you. So if you ever get hit by it, there's a good chance you might end up dying, but unlike you, I'm not a noob and I can dodge this ability. Besides Morgana, other matchups that I think will be rather difficult include Thresh, Blitzcrank, and Nautilus. In these matchups, I would recommend going for a level 2 W level up instead of E, because if they do ever hook either you or your ADC, you can have a better chance of fighting back with the quasi-revive you have on whatever target they are focusing. Enchantra's biggest weakness is a lack of mobility and tankiness, and these champions are great at punishing that. Zilean is another sneaky counter to Renata, as he can put his ultimate on whatever target you are trying to get the takedown on, which completely denies your W, which is rather annoying. Other champions that I can imagine will be rather difficult are those with fairly long range that just want to poke you out. You have no healing in your kit, so if you get poked down and killed, your W revive won't really do much. At the same time, these are lanes you can punish early if you get level 2 first and are very gankable if they are too pushed up, so you can deal with them that way. Other champions that might be annoying include Pyke and Leona, as it can be a bit tricky trying to peel them off, but you could poke them down and they have mostly single target CC, which makes your W very useful. Then we have some matchups that I would say are 50-50. With Brand, he does a lot of AoE damage, which is bad for how your W works, but he is very squishy, and if you land your Q, you should be able to kill him easily. Then we have some lower range beefier supports that have the potential to AoE CC you once they have a few levels. So early on, you will have a massive advantage on them, and you should leverage that by harassing them a bunch and then respecting them a little bit more later on. Now we have some matchups that I believe are Renata favored slightly. These include Karma, Senna, and Taric. Taric doesn't have the range to deal with you, and while Karma and Senna's range are matching yours, they are squishy enough to be a great target for the person who has your W activated to kill them in order to get a reset. Which brings me to champions that will learn what a true power bottom looks like, and I think Renata is the enchanter which is excellent at fighting other enchanters. You see, this class usually specializes in buffing up one person that will then have to kill the enemies for them. But Renata just says, okay fine, you killed them once with all your abilities, but now they've revived and you have to kill them again before they kill either the ADC or the squishy little support. Renata is also rather unique, as she has some of the best pre-level 6 engage for an enchanter in her Q ability that a lot of these other supports will really struggle against. Then we have the who plays these guys tier even, because it's been so long since I've seen any of them in my games, and yes, that includes Tahm Kenchin's Set, who I've indeed seen in pro play, but never in any of my own games. Now let's talk about ADCs that you want to pair Renata Glass with, which I will admit I don't have the most experience at, as I don't play the role, but these are my initial thoughts. For absolute best, Jinx has to be way up there, because in lane you can use your Q to drag people into her chompers, which is a ton of CC, but more importantly, it just makes sense if you watch Arcane, as lore is super important. Okay, never mind, I'm just messing around. But they are still crazy good together, because if your W enables her to trigger her passive instead of dying, then she will use all the attack speed and movement speed to potentially 1v9 the fight. Samira is kind of similar, because her passive can be combined with your hard CC, and the most important part is that if she's really close to ulting but ends up dying, then she gets a second chance to actually pop that ult because of your W. Zeri is a good combo, as she loves having movement speed and attack speed which your W grants, and she's going to be able to kite and chase enemies like a mad person, and from experience, the pairing has been amazing. Now let's talk about some champions I think will be great with Renata. Kalista is interesting because I bet that her Ren stacks don't go away when she gets into the W Grey health state, so she will probably be able to finish off a Ren that she wouldn't have been able to previously and get the kill she needs to not die. She isn't in the best pairing tier, as I do think her ultimate is a bit wasted with Renata. Then, Draven is solid, as his attack speed and heavy hitting build is always amazing with enchanters. Vayne, Tristana, and Kai'Sa are all hyper carries that if they die in a team fight, they have mobility options that they can use to get a takedown and not actually die. Then I think MF has potential to be strong, because if you can hit a nasty ult, then MF can ult on top of that and it would be an instantly won fight. Then for pairings I think will still be good, I have more hyper carries that just don't have the mobility to always get the takedown they will want. Lucian has this mobility, but might not have the damage to finish off a kill. Some pairings that I think will only be okay include Caitlyn, because she prefers more reliable CC to set up her trap. I mean, yes, you can perhaps trap during Renata's initial route, get the snare off, and then pull them, which would be nice, but there's a chance for anti-synergy if you don't time your pull right. Varus is oftentimes built poke, which really is not what Renata wants to play with, but on hit Varus I could see be bumped up into good. Then some champions I wouldn't be thrilled to have with Renata include Jhin, because if he gets stuck in a reload animation, he might not be able to get the takedown, and he doesn't utilize the attack speed as well as a hyper carry. Ezreal, Senna, and Sivir are all also kinda because they are more interested in staying very far back in fights and cleaning up kills. They lack that initial burst you want to get a sudden takedown to prevent death. Now, I strongly encourage you to let me know in the comments if I may have missed something either in the support matchups or in the ADC pairings, as this is the extremely early stages of this champion, and there's no way I mastered her, but these are just my initial thoughts. Now, in the hypothetical case that your ADC is a useless bonobo, then you might want to consider roaming from time to time, so let's talk about that now. Roaming is one of my favorite things to do in this game. One of the reasons why I don't play a lot of enchanters is because their roams can be a little lackluster. Renata Glass is an exception, as I found her to be an amazing roamer. In League of Legends, fights are usually super duper close between two people who are fairly even, but if you see one of those fights going down and are able to slap a quick W on that person who is fighting, then if they lose that fight, they end up not dying, but rather get the opportunity to kill their opponent and come back to life. That's OP. The amount of times I was able to utilize this ability to swing a fight while roaming was truly immense and cannot be understated. Your Q ability is also great for setting up kills if you can land it, but the one downside is that it isn't the longest range, so if they see you coming, it won't work out. For roaming, I will give Renata an A+. She can have a big impact on swinging a fight in the favor of your team, but the downside is she's super duper squishy, so if you have already used your W on someone else, you will end up dying super quickly as the cooldown is ridiculously long, but if you do have it up, you can bait people into trying to kill you, only to have your team finish them off instead. It's time to give Renata Glass an overall ability to support in the early game, which I will slot at a S rating. Now I'm comparing Renata Glass to all champions in the entire game, and considering that she has been designed to be a support, of course she has to have a super high rating. The only reason why I won't give her a S+ is due to the chance that you might int a bit in the early game in certain matchups because you are super squishy and have no mobility, which the enemies can exploit. But in the late game, where you are more likely to be grouped with others, she can truly shine, so let's talk about that now. In the late game, I like to rate a support's ability to get picks and to teamfight. Renata isn't bad at getting picks. All you have to do is show up unexpected, hit your Q, reactivate it to throw them into your team, and bam, target eliminated. Another sneaky maneuver that you can pull off against multiple enemies is showing up, which causes them to equally try to kill you, but using your ultimate to force them to kill each other instead as you just walk away. For getting picks, I will give Renata an A- rating. Hard CC is great, but you have the chance that you might miss it, and then you will just die. You also don't have a great mobility steroid to catch people off guard, so the rating isn't any higher. Although using your W on someone to tower dive an opponent can be nice, if the timing gets messed up and they die after the person you are diving dies, then they will just slowly lose their great health and perish as well. Now let's talk about one of the most important aspects of League of Legends, which is team fighting, where supports are responsible for engaging, peeling, and sometimes dealing damage. Engaging as Renata Glass is trickier than you might think. While yes, you do have this giant ultimate ability which CCs every enemy that it touches, it's so slow moving and easy to dodge that people will just end up walking away from it, making you quite sad. The best method I've found for using your ultimate if you are your team's main engage is from overall wall when you are out of vision and usually at a diagonal behind the enemies, so that if they want to avoid it they have to walk towards your team. Just like I said in lane pretty much. You do also still have the potential to engage with your Q on a single target, which isn't too bad, but isn't too amazing either due to its low range. For engaging, I will give Renata an A rating. Even though it isn't the best when it comes to all supports, it's still not bad when compared to all champions in League of Legends, as how many champions actually have a full lane CC ability? While Renata might not be the best engaged support, she is damn near one of the best peeling supports out there. Is your Master Yi charging in 1v3 like a crazy ape? just put your W on him so that instead of him dying, he actually lives and gets a kill. Is the enemy Master Yi going in like a crazy ape? Put your W on your Zeri so that the Master Yi dies instead and your ADC actually lives. Your W is going to be your main peel tool, and it's crazy good, because usually you want to just focus one person down before going to the next target, and your W is great at saving that one person and allowing them to fight for a longer time than they normally would be allowed. You also have an ultimate that can be thrown into a charging team trying to attack you, causing them to attack themselves instead of your team. Combine that with shielding and slows on your E, hard CC and displacement on your Q, and this all leads to an amazing all-around kit that is well deserving of a S+ rank in the support role when it comes to peeling. Now, most supports, and especially enchanters, are not known for their ability to deal damage in teamfights, but Renata is kind of unique where she uses the enemy's damage against them as her method of inflicting pain. It's a lot better in theory than in practice from what I've found out though, and the rest of her kit doesn't really do a ton of damage on its own, so I will give Renata a C- rating. But if she was chunking people out, then she would need a hard nerf as soon as possible. Before we look at Renata's overall ability to support, let's take a look at the runes and items that I would recommend. The number one rune choice I believe is Glacial Augment. I personally think this rune is so strong in enhancing your ability to both peel and engage, as the slow helps you set up plays and prevents the enemies a bit from doing what they desire. For the rest of the tree, I like to go Perfect Timing, as I love this rune for its potency in pulling off plays or baiting people in. Biscuit Delivery for more sustain in lane, which is also the benefit of Time Warp Tonic, as it gives you the sustain more quickly when needed. For the secondary tree, I like Resolve with Font of Life, as it works with your slow and root as well as Revitalize to boost your E shield. For the mini runes, I took Ability Haste, as it helps reduce your insanely long cooldowns, and Adaptive Force, as AP is nice to boost all part of your kit, and then either Armor or MR, depending on what poke you anticipate being more annoyed by in lane. The other rune option that I think could be viable is Airy, as you can proc it in multiple ways, but until Glacial Augment stops being giga busted, I stick with Glacial. Now let's talk about items, and here you have a ton of options. For your starting gold income item, I would use Spell Thief's Edge, as it enhances your poke and you can get wards quite easily with it. The best boot option is most likely going to be CDR boots, as your cooldowns are super long and you want to get those down as much as possible. Now let's talk about mythics, and honestly there are a ton of options. The first one, and my personal favorite, is Crown of the Shattered Queen. As long as the enemy doesn't have crazy poke to get rid of the item's passive, this is such a solid item in keeping you alive from enemy assassins, which will let you cast your super duper important abilities before dying, and the AP you get from this item is quite nice, as every part of your kit, outside of your ult, scales with AP. The second mythic choice I would recommend is Imperial Mandate, as your Q and E will allow your allies to proc the passive, giving you movement speed and bonus damage. It's a cheap item and not too bad, but it didn't feel like anything special either. Another mythic option that I think could be sneaky good is Shurelia's Battle Song, as your allies will be gaining even more movement speed with W, and now movement speed from E, and it can better empower your abilities to both peel and engage with the active. Finally, the last mythic option that I could potentially see is Moonstone Renewer. Now, while this item would make your Glacial Augment more effective, I don't really see it as being that amazing on Renata based on how long your cooldowns are, so you won't be proccing the passive that often. In terms of items you want to go for after Mythic, I find myself going for Zhonya's almost every game, because if you can use all of your abilities and then save yourself with the stasis effect and get another rotation off, then you can have a major impact on fights, and I'm just a sucker for Zhonya's overall. Another solid item that I found myself building was Chemtech Purifier to inhibit enemies' healing. It combos nicely with your shielding, and in most games you won't have much more gold to spend, but in the rare case that you do, feel free to buy more enchanter items that you think would be best for your situation. One of my favorites would be Staff of Flow and Water to get more CDR and AP when I'm shielding people. Now that we've talked about the runes and items I like to run, let's give Renata Glass an overall rating for her ability to support, which will slot at a S rating. She's really strong as a support, of course, because, well, that's her intended role, and I would say that Riot is correct in placing her there. Renata is an amazing champion overall, and one I'm excited to play quite frequently, as she fills a badass enchanter vibe that I wasn't getting from most other supports out there. When you play Renata, you feel like you are in control of most situations if you play it correctly, and you have a ton of influence on the outcomes of fights as long as your team plays well around your kit. The only reason I won't give her a S+ rating is because I think she has too many matchups where she can get abused in the early game, which might prevent her from shining in the late game. But at the end of the day, who knows? It's going to take us all some time to really see Renata's true potential, but for now I'm quite confident in my ratings. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would leave it a like, that would be amazing, and if you'd consider subscribing, that would make my day. Also, let me know what you think about Renata in the comments, as well as who you think I should play next, as I'd be happy to fulfill some requests, but I will admit I do have a bit of a backlog of champions that I've already been working on. Again, thanks for watching, and I want to wish you good luck and have fun if you are playing Renata Glass for the first time. You will probably need it.